Ladies and gentlemen, you see the lights in my background. You see Justin, slightly different array of pictures in the back, and you see that Rick is in a car. So you already know what that means. That means that this is a different episode of the Sports Ages of Chaos podcast. But of course, as always, you're all joining us on what is going to be a beautiful Saturday. Because damn it, that's when we're posting this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sports Ages of Chaos podcast. Secondly, our third podcast after dark. So Chaos After Dark, part 3 for us, but we have a special title for this episode as well. Thank you all so much for joining us. Obviously, of course, you know what this means. Schedules clashing, mixing up, but that doesn't stop us. We've said it before, we'll say it again. Rain, snow, sleet, hail, and schedules will not stop us from recording. As always, joining myself, Iceman Jurg, are my two cohorts. First off, at the bottom, Justin, our master of games. Justin, how are we doing today?
Doing well. Trying to get over this damn cough.
I feel you, dude. I've been had a bad nose the last couple days. It's been rough.
It's like flu game part 7 for me at this point. Like, I have had a rough year.
I was going to say, this is like the 5th or 6th podcast episode where it's like you've had some sort of ailment.
Yeah.
So, but he's a trooper, ladies and gentlemen. He fights strong. Speaking of trooper, about I believe the fourth time he's appeared in a car in some way, shape, or form on the podcast. Darth Podfather Rick. Rick, how we doing?
You know, I've got light now from the red lights and from the cars that are around me. Otherwise, I'd be doing a lot of, this all time long. But, and by the way, it's raining. So even more elements can't stop me from doing the podcast now. It just started about 5 minutes ago. So glad you're all here for the rain game.
Yes, the rain game, flu game part 7 for Justin, flu game part 2 for me with my congestion nose. And all the elements working against us, but you know what, boys? We still stand and deliver. Speaking of standing and delivering, a team delivered the release of a backup quarterback this past week. We're going to talk about that as a certain former number 1 overall pick is now released and very quickly on our new team now as well. We're also, of course, when we do this episode, have no fear, ladies and gentlemen, the pick challenge is here. And we actually have, believe it or not, a rant prepared for Rick. Normally with these Chaos After Dark episodes, there's no dignified rant, but there is a rant prepared by Rick. Can't wait for that. But before we start that off, we do have one game for today. Our games master always comes locked, loaded, prepared all the time, ladies and gentlemen. So Justin, I pass it to you. What is today's round of trivia?
All right, guys. So as of today, there are 2 teams in the NFL that have given up 300 points and scored 300 points, at least. What do you got?
Well, given up and score 300. Okay, I want to say both are obvious, but I feel like one of them is going to be a miss, so I'll start off the affair. Rick's beloved NFC North winning Detroit Lions have to be on that list.
The Detroit Lions have scored 315 points and given up 324. Their point differential is currently -9.
And yet they're still in second place in the NFC North. Thank you very much.
Yes, his preseason prediction. I mean, technically he's only off by 1 place in the standings, which is funny.
Hey, listen. They're not last.
Listen, they might be locked into at least a second place after this week.
Very true. Very true, to say the least. All right, so Detroit was guest number 1. Rick, I feel like the second team is obvious, but I'll let you take the swing at it.
I don't know how obvious the second team truly is. I mean, I'm looking at maybe because Dallas put up 54 last week. I don't know how they're probably not giving up that many points on defense, I would say. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely questionable. There's a lot of teams out there that are great offensively, but that could be terrible defensively too. So I honestly don't know. I would defer to you on this one if you have the answer. You think it's obvious because, well, you're also sitting at home and I'm driving, so I can't really think while I'm trying to navigate the road. But Dallas would be my guess if I had one.
Very fair. So the only thing with Dallas, like you said, their defense has been phenomenal this season. Even the few times they've lost, it hasn't necessarily been by massive blowouts, to say the very least.
Right.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Maybe only that one Eagles game so far. That's because Cooper Rush was in. I can't even remember the final score just off the top. But I don't think they've given up anywhere near 300 points this season. My second guess is, I'll just pass off the logic, Rick, is the Seahawks. Remember, them and the Lions had that high-scoring affair together. They've given up a number of points. They've had a couple of high-scoring games this season. Think about them and the Raiders with one another. Them and was it the Chargers or somebody else that they had like a decently scoring game with? Like the Seahawks have done some scoring, but they've also let up some scoring as well because they've lost. Like they're an even-keeled team. So
reasonable expectations there. Yeah, I could see that being a good shout.
All right, so let's go with the Seahawks for guess numero dos.
Jared, you're on fire today, man. The Seattle Seahawks currently have 318 points for, 304 against. They have a plus 14 point differential.
Oh.
Yeah. They're the team that has the plus, and then the Lions have the minus.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, well, when one team is quarterbacked by Jared Goff and the other team is quarterbacked by future Seahawks Ring of Honor member Geno Smith, I mean, you're bound to be a plus in the plus-minus category. So.
Yep.
Come on now, boys.
I had a thought about this. What if we created the character in Madden that just bounced around to every team, played 32 years, one season with every team, one Super Bowl with every team? Would they be Ring of Honor across all of the entire NFL?
You'd have to be.
Maybe.
You have to retire that number.
Right. Yeah.
32 Super Bowls
in a row.
Let them, no. Different number every team. Make it even more confusing.
He wears one with the Chiefs, like 15 with the Giants. I don't even know what numbers are retired, but
can a quarterback be 32 different numbers? I think they can now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they can now. Yeah.
They can wear 99 for all they. That has to be awesome.
Why not?
We need a quarterback to wear 99 now. We need to see it try to happen
soon, Jerry.
Soon, one day.
Very
Just like Geno Smith in the Seahawks Ring of Honor. Anyways, moving on from that, another round of trivia one for us. You know, Rick, we haven't had Sandoval in a while on this show, but I think we're doing pretty fine with trivia. I like to think that we're holding our own. No response. All right, then. In the meanwhile, that was this round of trivia. So, Justin, once again, very much congratulations on another game. But let's head to the news, ladies and gentlemen. This week, literally like days ago, Baker Mayfield was cut by the Carolina Panthers. It was actually, funny enough, this wasn't in the initial reporting. He actually requested his release from the Panthers, which makes sense. You know, he lost his job to the should-have-been XFL MVP P.J. Walker. Sam Darnold got a little bit of playing time here recently, so it was very clear that Baker was in the, I don't want to say doghouse per se, but he just was not favored ultimately by head coach Steve Wilkes, interim head coach, I should say, for the remainder of the season, and he requested his release. And I'll give the Panthers a little bit of credit. They granted it to him, and I think it's probably in part easy number for them to eat in the cap. They got the Browns to retain a little bit of that salary, I stress a little bit before the season, and they cut him no harm, no foul, and it's only a one-year deal as well, so boom, Baker goes, and the way it works based off of teams' records this season, there is a waiver order in terms of who claims him. Obviously, the Houston Texans didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because they're like, you know what? Davis Mills and Kyle Allen, those are quarterbacks for the future. And according to me, last episodes, those will also be their quarterbacks for next season. But we're not here to start that argument again. Ultimately, Baker Mayfield did get picked up by an NFC West team, but it wasn't the one that everyone was trying to predict. The popular one that everyone was saying, Baker to San Francisco, Baker to the 49ers, Baker under Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy G just got hurt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, Baker Mayfield has been claimed by the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams play spoiler. Sean McVay lost season, but man, he's going to stick it to the 49ers in some way, shape, or form. If he can't do it in-game, he'll do it in this way. So, boys, Baker Mayfield going to the Los Angeles Rams. Justin, I want to start this with you. Kind of like two ways to go about this, so I want your thoughts on both. Why, in your mind, and it might be obvious, but can you just explain why was Baker to the Niners the popular theory, do you think? And then what sense is it for the Rams getting Baker now?
So I think it was popular because obviously Jimmy G went down. I mean, Brock Purdy, for how well he performed in the Miami game, is largely an unknown. So at least Baker is a proven quarterback. He's had some success in the NFL, albeit, not a lot, but he has led a team to the playoffs before. He, in theory, could have been the best option. But I like the landing spot for him, actually. I think it might be a good place for him to develop. if there's any offensive coordinator that could probably whip him into shape, that would probably be Sean McVay. He could probably learn a lot from Matthew Stafford. It'll be interesting to see if he signs a little bit of an extension there, maybe sit behind Stafford for a year or two and, really grow into himself, especially if Stafford continues to have injury woes that he's had his whole career. He could always play sporadically there and, maybe make something into himself. So I like it. I like the move for the Rams.
Indeed. Rick, what do you think, in terms of the Rams doing this, probably in part to spite the 49ers, to say the very least? Good. You got to love a division team spiting another division team. But, Justin kind of mentioned, but what is the, best case scenario for the Rams with picking up Baker and how this could work out for them?
Well, you remember how we spoke in the very beginning of the season before the season even started about Matt Stafford and the elbow tendonitis that was or that wasn't? And one of the things that I said was that you better hope that Matt Stafford's fully healthy, because if not, John Wolford's not the answer at the backup plan. So this gives the LA Rams a legitimate backup with Baker going there. The problem is it's too little too late. I mean, if they had tried to do something like this in the beginning of the season, maybe they would have covered, their butts and been a more competitive team than they are. As it stands right now, it's a great landing spot for Baker Mayfield. Justin's dead on about that, because you've now got a clear QB2 and possibly the heir apparent to Stafford if he cannot continue. Remember, a couple weeks ago, Ian Rappaport had said that whatever the injury was with Matt Stafford could be career-threatening. And so now you've got an opportunity to have somebody there who you can foresee as a future guy to build around. And, it's a shame for Matt Stafford because he had that one great year and he got to the Super Bowl and he finally won his ring. But at the same point in time, if you're a Rams fan, you got to have some positive notes for the future, because Baker's a good quarterback. He just got saddled with bad teams, and he'll be able to learn. The Rams can potentially build around him in the free agent market, and it might be the landing spot that he needed. It might be the thing that he needed to continue to have a career renaissance in a way. So I like it for them. I like it for Baker. And, again, it's more proof positive that NFL teams got to listen to this show and watching the show, because we're telling you what to do dead on.
I agree with that. I mean, once again, pat ourselves on the back. If our 3-round mock was any indicator, we hit on a couple of guys that ended up being pretty good in the league. Now, did we draft them a little bit higher than what they were? Yes. Does that matter? Don't think about that. Think about the guys that we selected that are actually doing something in the league this season. Come on, guys. But yeah, no, I'm totally with both of you. I think, first off, Justin, with the logic, it actually makes sense for both teams in terms of injury to the starting quarterback. You get a guy who's been a starter in this league before, who's had a little bit of success before, and you just bring him in to be that temporary Band-Aid for yourself. Now for San Fran, it's going to be interesting to see how they do deal with it. Really not much of a choice. It has to be Brock Purdy or bust, but they did sign me and one of both myself and Rick's and probably Justin's favorite backup quarterbacks in NFL history, Josh Johnson. So,
Son of a...
Yeah. I bet Rick wishes he could replace Joe Flacco with Josh Johnson. Rick, do you wish you could trade Joe Flacco for Josh Johnson right now?
How is this guy still in the league? This is like his 25th team. How is he still in the league at this point? God, unbelievable. I mean, yeah, I want him back instead of Flacco, but I'd rather have Chris Strebler. But, I mean, how is he still around? I'm confused.
I want to say he was picked up from the Broncos practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. So what a year has been for Josh Johnson. Didn't even know he was on a practice squad. So there's that.
Yeah, because they need help at quarterback. Russell Wilson's not doing anything.
Yeah. Honestly, hindsight 2020, Josh Johnson and Russell Wilson, who would you rather pay? This season, I think it's actually closer than most would determine. Anyways, yeah. Yes, Rick?
I want Josh Freeman instead.
Mark that. How many episodes is that in a row now where we've brought a random name from the late 2000s, early 2010s on the show? 6, 5?
It's gotta be 6 or 7, but that's why I'm here, to bring you random quarterback names.
I love it. Well, not just random quarterback names. We got Don Terry Poe a couple weeks ago. Oh my God, this is just the best show possible. Anyways, but I'm with you guys behind the logic. The 49ers lose out, obviously, because I mentioned when it comes to the waiver claim order, the Rams are a lot higher up because they are, let's just say, terrible this season compared to the 49ers. So the 49ers would have had to gotten very lucky with Baker passing a lot of teams, which to be fair, he probably could have and would have anyways. But the Rams pick him up. I'm with you guys. Baker is the perfect quarterback number 2 for this team potentially right now. If not the quarterback 1, like you mentioned, Rick, this is going to be one of I think the offseason storylines that we have to already keep an eye on. Like when it comes to teams that are most likely out of the playoffs, we have to like give a little bit of convo to them in terms of going into the offseason. We already got to wonder if Matthew Stafford's career is done, something we're going to keep track of throughout the next couple weeks and months here. How is this going to affect the Rams offseason? How does that affect the salary cap in terms of a player that has to be forcibly retired due to injury as well? The money they had to owe him, cap hit, dead cap, etc. That's going to be something that we're going to be learning about potentially here in the upcoming months. But I'm with you, Rick. I think Baker Mayfield, the idea that Sean McVay can work him, like Justin mentioned, is plausible. He had Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland, and say what you will about Kevin Stefanski and his comments at the end and how the relationship soured in that last season. Offensively, him and Baker clicked during the 2020 season when they made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So I think of that he's had success when he's had good weapons around him. The guy's obviously hurt right now, but for assuming going into next season, you got Cooper Kupp on that Rams team. Allen Robinson, in theory, if he could put it back together, it was a massively underwhelming year for Allen Robinson. We'll see if he could potentially make it up in year 2 as a Los Angeles Ram, assuming he does get a year 2, most likely. This team overall, the running game, which normally Sean McVay has done a good job on, not as strong in a lot of points this season. Going to need that to improve because that was a big key to Baker's success was the running game as well, obviously with Nick Chubb and also a lot of play action, which McVay, to be fair, is actually very well versed in, of course. A lot of different factors, but ultimately it does make sense of why Baker would have ended up with the Rams. And also, and this is actually a point I saw just before we started this, boys, and the logic is if Baker could somehow come in and win you a couple of games, even though it technically doesn't do much for them, likely missing the playoffs, it makes Detroit's pick a little worse for wear. Now, the Lions are still getting an amazing pick from the Rams. But if Baker can come in and surprise, get like 2 to 3 wins by chance, that would be a big time. That'd be a big time thing for them. And also considering Cooper Kupp is out, if Baker can get a couple wins with how depleted this team looks right now, it could be signs for next season for this team as well. So I think overall it was a great claim by the Rams. And once again, you always got to love a team just sticking it to their division rival, which is what they did. Before we move on, really, we mentioned the Rams and doing it. Obviously, the adverse effect it has on the 49ers. Rick, I want to throw it to you first. In terms of the 49ers now, unless there's some sort of magic that we're missing that they could somehow perform, it's Brock Purdy or bust at this point this season. How do you think, just short-term thinking off the dome, how do you think it's going to play out for them?
Well, not necessarily, because I saw a report come out today that Garoppolo avoided a significant injury. He avoided the Lis Frank, I think, right? So if that's the case, then Garoppolo is still going to try and gut out being a QB1. So you got to be careful on that end. You don't want to hurt him even further. But the added value of that is that you do have Trey Lance. So to pardon the pun, but you can run the Garoppolo horse into the ground because you've got Trey Lance on the back burner for next year if Garoppolo's hurt even further. Maybe Brock Purdy can be the answer for a couple games here or there for the games that are against like the middling, the cupcake foes, if they've got any left. But if Garoppolo's still healthy enough to go. I mean, we saw Justin Fields this past week. He apparently had a separated shoulder. Well, no, he was out there throwing. So, it's not like it's out of the question of Garoppolo still being your QB1. It's just more of a matter of, do you chance the odds of kind of splitting time with him and Purdy, A, to see what you have in the kid, and B, to kind of keep yourself in the hunt for a playoff spot.
Right. And from what I'm seeing, yes, he did avoid the Lis Frank, but at least from what I'm seeing, a lot of people are still mainly projecting his injury, even with avoiding the worst case scenario, still for him to likely only return for the playoffs, maybe the very end of the regular season, depending on how the standings are going in that effect. Justin, your thoughts about San Francisco's quarterback situation and how, is that defense enough? Is it going to be able to carry them over the next couple weeks of the season?
Well, it's more than just the defense, though, because they have weapons as good as any team in the NFL at this point. I mean, if there was a team that could sustain playing through a quarterback injury, it looks like the 49ers are the ones that are built the right way. They have the top defense in the league as of right now. Excuse me. And they do. They have weapons. They have a great run game. They have a very good offensive line, and they have an excellent tight end. So it looks like they can possibly supplement that. And if if Brock Purdy can play semi-decently and, have 200, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns a game and only, limit the interceptions and the turnovers, they're still a major contender in the NFC.
Fair enough. And yeah, to your point, there's a lot of things if you're Brock Purdy, like that's a pretty good set of weapons right there for yourself to be able to fall back into. And if you're Kyle Shanahan and that team, Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk, and now that defense, of course, Nick Bosa, defensive player of the year caliber player every single time. Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers in the game. Plenty of defense to help out the offensive, what could be deficiencies in some moments here and there. And I mean, it'll be a big first test, to say the very least, here, boys. It's going to be the San Francisco 49ers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this upcoming weekend. Sunday, it's a 4:25 start on Fox, so big primetime game right there for the kid to potentially test it. Mystery relevant from this past draft against – now, what pick was Tom Brady again in his draft? God, I feel like he's never mentioned it before, and I always forget what number he is. What's the number again?
Who cares?
I was waiting for someone to respond with that answer. Anyways, that's going to be what the 49ers deal with in the future. What the Rams are dealing with here in the future is Thursday Night Football, Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Rams. Is Baker going to be able to play in that game, or do we have to wait another week? Do you guys know if he's eligible to play in that? I would assume
it's a possibility, but it's probably unlikely given this short week.
Fair enough. So most likely scenario then over everything is that he would be playing in week 15, which if I look at the schedule, the Rams week 15 opponent is the Green Bay Packers, Monday, December 19th. Ooh, look at that. What do you guys think? If the Packers are truly somehow eliminated not somehow, if the Packers are really out of it and they decide to sit Rodgers, what do you guys think of a Jordan Love versus Baker Mayfield Monday Night Football game there, boys?
9-9 tie. No touchdowns, all field goals.
The NFL's having a rough time with primetime games, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was the Broncos early in the season, and
they have like 8 primetime games this year. It was crazy.
It felt like it. Well, they got flexed out of a primetime game this week.
I know.
God, this is probably one of the best decisions they've made yet to take the Broncos out of primetime, as they should. Piece of trash team that is. Anyway, speaking of which, and speaking of games, and speaking of picking them. It is finally time, ladies and gentlemen, the Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge. You guys know how it works, but we got a little bit of time here, so let's have some fun. For new viewers to the show, welcome. This is one of the 2 main events of the show. The way the Pick Challenge works, me, Rick, and Justin all have 4 picks, tiered 4-pointer, 3-pointer, 2-pointer, 1-pointer. 4-pointer, our first pick, most confident. 1-pointer, least confident. You must pick at least one upset. But it must be at worst your 2-point pick. So it cannot be your 1-point pick. You don't get to be cheap like that. You gotta have integrity. You gotta be a man. In reality, it's just a rule that we made up so that no one swindles their way. But yeah, that's how it goes. And the lines for this game, based off of who's favorited, who could be the upset winner, et cetera, et cetera. Those lines we're basing it off of ESPN. And as Justin always says, ESPN gets their lines from Caesar Sportsbook. There we go. So we have 12 games this week because we are not including Thursday Night Football because, as Rick says,
F. Jeff Bezos.
There we go. So no Thursday Night Football this week. We will not be going with that, and we will not be counting that game as well. I don't know if we'd want to even, just for the hell of it, just to let the people know what they're missing out on. It's Raiders at Rams. Vegas is presently favored as a -6 point favorite going into it. It's so bad. That game could be so bad. And I also mean that in terms of Raiders could win that game like 30-0. And it's just, boy. So we're not picking that because, I mean, if we did include it, it might actually be Rick's 4-point pick, believe it or not, because the way it works, ladies and gentlemen, the pick order is based off of our cumulative points throughout the season so far. And by the standings, I have that here momentarily because Rick is the best and he provided that to me. The Deer stands in 4th place actually with 48 points. Rick stands in 3rd place with 53. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the show, we have a Deer. He's called Sandoval. He's Justin's greatest enemy, and he picks games better than Rick like a vast majority of the time. Anyways, Deer, 48 points. Rick, 53 points. Justin, 76 points in 2nd. And I am somehow in 1st place. I didn't even realize it until Rick said it. 81 points. Look at that. 80-point mark. Let's go. It's gonna be a rough week. Watch me stay like in the 80s for sure. There's some tough games to pick this week, and our amazing brains. We're gonna crunch all the numbers. We're gonna look at all the stats. We're gonna crunch the Steiner. We're gonna do some Steiner mathematics in this one, boys, and we're gonna figure it out. So without much further ado, the man who picks first for the majority of the season, Rick. your first pick, the 4-point pick that begins this week's selection is.
To quote SpongeBob SquarePants, the stars at night are dull and dim whenever they have to sign over big old stupid Texas. Because my hope is that in our wheel spins that Sandoval will get me and get the 4-point game, because that means he's picking the Texans. Give me the Cowboys over the Texans at 4 points. It's a 17.5-point game. Dallas put up 54. Houston's got no offense. Like this will be over by the first kickoff. I'm sorry.
Yep. It's looking prime right there. So yes, actually so for those wondering, normally what we do at the end is that we leave games for Sandoval the deer because he can't pick them by himself because obviously he's a deer. I mean, I say he's a deer. He's a fake deer, but we normally leave games for him at the end that Rick then assigns him. But this is actually the second time this season we have 0 games left over after all of our selections. So what we're doing, just like we did last time, is that we have 3 wheels set up. One wheel will decide which one of us Sandoval is going to go against. One wheel will decide which point-tiered game he's going to go against. And then the last wheel is his point multiplier for that game, all based upon which point game he gets. Obviously, it'll be a different point multiplier for the 4-pointer compared to the 1-pointer, as I'm sure returning viewers have seen on this program. So that was Rick's 4-pointer. He goes Dallas Cowboys over Texans. Justin, my man, next pick is yours.
I'm pretty torn. I'm gonna stick with my gut. They hurt me last week, but I don't anticipate that happening again. Even though I do not like betting on Broncos games because they're terrible, and they somehow make every game close because their defense is good. I'm gonna take the Chiefs.
That makes sense. Yeah. It does not matter how much the Chiefs let you down the week before. It's the Broncos, Justin. Like, come on.
It's Nathaniel Hackett. Like, come on. He doesn't deserve to coach a JV football team, let alone an NFL football team at this point.
Yeah. That's fair. That's very fair. All right, my turn. All right. So this is a tough one for me because there are games on here that I want to go if there are games that I like. There's actually an upset pick that I'm considering with my 4-pointer, even though some people would think, what are you thinking? Are you mad, Jurgen? Are you a mad lad? The answer is yes, actually.
I do 4-point upsets. You can do it. You can end up like me. But
I'm saying it's the first time I'm doing this, and I would like not to be next to the deer in the standings. Thank you very much, Rick. Anyways, I thought that was going to trigger a light.
Yeah, it's the backlight I'm triggering.
Oh man. Okay, so I look at these. Do I tempt fate because of how much trash I've talked about this quarterback on this show? Do I tempt fate? You know what? I'm tempting fate. In part because we're basing this off the lines we have now, and this counts as an upset. So give me the Minnesota Vikings over the Detroit Lions for my 4-point pick and my upset pick.
I don't understand how that's an upset. I mean, I get it's in Detroit, but no one from the Vikings is hurt to my knowledge.
I think the idea, if I had to just guess, is they played the Jets really close. I'm not saying this against you guys. I have said before that this has been an amazing season for the Jets, but I think the idea is that they let the Jets come on late. They're now going to Detroit. In Detroit, Detroit's had some magic. They've won a couple games. And I think, I could be wrong, was it last season? I think it was last year or was it the year before that the Lions got like a shock upset win against the Vikings in Detroit?
They also let up a last-second touchdown, I believe, to lose earlier in Minnesota this year. So it was a really close game. It's a game that Detroit probably should have won.
Yeah.
They do match up well against the Vikings.
Yeah, for sure. And like, again, I'm not picking that because to completely disrespect Detroit or to say that it should be like Vikings minus like 6 or whatever. I mean, probably should be like at least Vikings minus 3, but I'll take the upset. Thank you very much, Caesar Sportsbook. But Minnesota, if you want to prove yourself, like this is the kind of game that you have to go in and win, right? This is a surging Lions team. This is a team that's getting some energy to the end of the season. This is the kind of game that you need to go up against, and this is the kind of game that you got to win for yourself. So give me Vikings as my upset pick, so I don't got to pick any more upsets for this episode. Yay! But as we go snake order format. So it's once again me. It's my 3-point pick. And do I want to go double upsets? Is the question. Do I want to do it? Do I want to channel the inner Rick? No. The random red light. Anyways, I forget if I picked these two teams earlier in the season for a game. Maybe it wasn't here. Maybe it was somewhere else. But I'm going with it. Even though Joe Burrow, I guess he apparently hasn't beaten this team yet. This is a big spot for this team to get a win to potentially leapfrog the Ravens in the standings. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals. They got to show up against Cleveland at some point. So give me the Bengals over the Cleveland Browns. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because did he play last game? Jamar Chase played last game, right, or no? My brain is scrambled from the weekend. Jamar Chase did play against the Chiefs.
Yeah, he played.
7 for 97. So Jamar Chase is back. He actually looked pretty good. Like, he's looked good coming back. Give me the Bengals over the Browns. And that could be a really big game in terms of determining the order in the AFC North for the remainder of the season.
So, also, good pick. # start Joe Kobe Brissett instead of Deshaun Watson. Because
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. That piece of trash. I'm not even worried about it with how he played that in that first game. He played terribly. Justin, I was hoping for you, man. I was really hoping the Texans would beat them somehow. I really was.
Their offense is so bad.
Oh no, they're god awful. They're god awful. But I was hoping for you. Like, I was hoping with the sentiment.
Justin, what are you talking about? Their offense had the only touchdown on the offense in the entire game.
Yeah, after they were down like 30 points.
I mean, they still scored the only offensive touchdown. Technically speaking,
they did.
If we're going by logic, the Texans were the better offense that day. They scored the only offensive touchdown.
Fact. That is a fact.
Their offense was the one that gave up the touchdowns too.
Shush.
Anyways,
make your second pick.
It's not even worth putting the light on for that comment, Justin.
Jerg, that was I'm mad at you because that was my other pick that I was torn upon because I knew that it was the only really good upset this week, so I thought about taking it with my 4-point pick, and everything else is kind of rough. So there's another couple games that I think are surefire wins.
We're starting to enter dangerous territory here in terms of, like, these games are getting close now.
Yeah. And see, both of them are in divisions that I don't trust. They're always like crazy wild card games. You know what? I'll go. I'm gonna listen to Caesar's Sportsbook, the more sure thing of a win, and I'm gonna take the Eagles to beat the Giants in New York.
Okay. Eagles currently favored by a touchdown to beat the Giants as well. Very interesting, to say the least. The Giants, of course, as we know, part of a infamous tie that gets Rick one step closer to his exact record prediction for the Washington Commanders. Oh no, have we lost the Podfather? No, we've lost the Podfather. Okay, we'll get him back in a moment here.
Terrible timing too,
right?
Back-to-back right as he's about to pick.
Back-to-back picks too. It's just tragic. Anyways, Justin, so let's do a little recap here so far. We normally don't do this, but we have time to kill, ladies and gentlemen. So far, 4-point picks. Rick, Cowboys over, and I'll state all the picks at the end as well, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Rick, his 4-point pick, Dallas over Houston. Justin, you picked the Chiefs over the Broncos, of course. Vikings over Detroit for me for my upset. The fact that it's an upset is just funny to me. Bengals over Browns for me for my 3-pointer. Eagles over Giants for you for your 3-pointer. I mean, since actually, do we have him back? Is the Podfather back? There we go.
He's returned from the dark side.
Indeed, he has. From
the shadow realm.
I had to consult with the great leaders regarding that 3-point pick for Justin about Philadelphia and the Giants. And while it hurt a little bit, it didn't hurt as much as your comments about there not being that many great upsets, because there's one that none of you have chosen that I'm going to take at 3 points.
I want to say for the record, I didn't say they weren't great upsets. I said that these are tough games to pick. I never said they were great upsets.
Regardless.
Go on.
There's a team that has struggled mightily this season to defend mobile quarterbacks. This team allowed 101 yards to Lamar Jackson and 82 to Justin Fields. And this week, they're facing Kyler Murray.
I know.
So my 3-point pick is the Cardinals upsetting the Patriots on Monday night.
Nice.
They've struggled. They've struggled mightily against mobile quarterbacks.
I had 2 upsets that I wanted to take this week, guys.
And they were both taken from you.
Hey, Justin, when you pick in the middle, you got to pick your upsets quickly because they go away very fast. You want Carolina and Seattle? I'll give you that one.
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fine. Now I go down to 2 points, and look, this one hurts me to do because the Jets were so close to pulling off a great win last week, but you can't tell me that Buffalo's going to lose the season series and get swept by the Jets. It's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry to say it. It was a great first win, but lightning can't strike twice. Give me the Bills over the Jets with 2 points.
Especially, Rick, when you consider the fact that, like, they didn't just lose to the Jets, they also lost to the Dolphins. So these are critical games here coming against both those teams. And there's no way they go 0-4 against those two clubs this season.
Right.
That they're likely breaking even. So them against the Jets makes a good amount of sense there. Justin.
And you consider the fact also that they're in the hunt for the 1 seed. Now that the 1 seed means the most out of any playoff chase now, they got to fight for every single game. So I see them putting a wallop on Mike White and taking care of business.
Them and the Chiefs also are both at 9-3 this season, and that's big considering the Chiefs lost to the Bengals. Like, that is much needed momentum. That's a much needed game that the Bills needed to break their way, and they beat the Chiefs earlier this season too. So right now, the Bills hold their own destiny in their hands, and like Rick said, with the new playoff format the last couple of seasons that's been introduced, only the 1 seed gets a bye and makes it even more valuable, which I honestly think I really love that when that decision was made to add an extra playoff team to make it only the 1 seed gets the bye. It makes it more valuable, especially for the end of the season, depending on like what teams could do in terms of sitting players or making them play the final game. So great move right there. Justin, your 2-pointer has to be an upset. I know you're mulling over, obviously, because your main upsets have been picked. What are we looking at here?
I don't know. There's nothing left.
I mean, there's one that I'm looking at that you just have to hope that the home team is just really terrible this week to go your way.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 that I think that would be on your mind for that.
Fair point.
I mean, I if I didn't have to, I wouldn't pick it. But I guess I'm gonna have to pick the Ravens. I think the Steelers will win, but I guess I'm gonna have to believe in Brent Hundley because that's the closest game I see here that's left.
So there is
Isn't it
Justin's.
Tyler
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Tyler Huntley, isn't it? That's his name.
Tyler
Brent
Huntley, not
Hundley.
Brent Huntley.
Who's Brent Hundley?
Well, no.
So, whoa. Time out. So earlier in the year, before the preseason, Lamar Jackson was backed up by both Tyler Hundley and Brett Huntley. Hundley with a D beat Huntley with a T. Hundley came in whatever it was. I don't even know anymore. I'm turning the light off.
You could see how much I believe in these people.
Indeed, it's Tyler Huntley. That is the Ravens.
No, listen, I got it. His 187 passing yards and 1 interception is going to win me a game against arguably one of the top defenses in the league this year. And a great coach in Mike Tomlin, who, by the way, don't talk to when he's working.
Clearly, as a fan learned this week, don't do it to yourself. All right, my picks. Whew. See, I feel your pain, Justin, because there's a lot of tough picks to go with here. I'm so torn because I feel like at some point this season, the Seahawks are going to lose one of these games that they're supposed to win. And it's not because of Geno Smith. Let me clarify that. It's not because of Geno Smith. It's because of Pete Carroll, old man. But at some point, the Seahawks are going to lose one of these games.
That's my Coach of the Year candidate you're talking about right there.
Hey, my defensive player of the year candidate's injured for the season, so damn your coach of the year candidate. Anyways, despite what I think could potentially happen in this game, because I think this is a trap game. I think we could all agree this is a trap game. I'm going to go with the Seahawks over the Panthers. Like, the Panthers are just not good. You want to talk about a team that can't do much. It's the Carolina Panthers this season, man. They're terrible. They are absolutely terrible this season overall. All right. So that's my 2-pointer. With my 1-pointer, man, I have a treasure trove of games that could go either way. And once again, I am stuck with a game here that I'm looking at that I don't want to pick it because I hate the quarterback. But man, it would be an easy 1 point. Probably should have made my 2-pointer, actually, hindsight 2020. I think this is the second time this season I'm picking them, the second or the third. Give me the Titans. Give me the Titans over the Jags.
What?
Because the shock. Whose fault is that?
Wait. Doug Peterson, what do you want?
Man, dude, Derrick Henry has proven in his career that he just runs over the Jaguars. I think, like, aside from the Texans, I think the Jaguars are the next team that Derrick Henry just absolutely bullies. And I think it's going to continue here. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Give me the Titans over the Jags. I'm not proud of it. I don't like it. I don't like it whenever I have to pick that sorry organization to win games. The organization, by the way, we actually didn't even talk about it because we completely forgot about it. They fired their GM today, but we're going to wait to see what else comes out about that because it was a very, very interesting situation that could potentially rise up, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, give me the Titans. Give me the Titans. My bad. I hate picking.
Poking out his own pick.
Yeah. Give me the Titans.
All right. That means it's up to me. And while Jurg is a big Titans fan all of a sudden.
How dare you?
I get to pick one of 2 games. And I'm going to go with the best offense, I think, that's left on the board. Even though their defense has been kind of atrocious, I still think they can get after the quarterback. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. I had a lot of luck picking Sunday nights also.
Very true. Very true. Miami Dolphins favored over the Chargers by 3 points in LA, which, let's be real here, that's not really a Chargers home game. So that'll be interesting. That's really going to be that's a game where the Chargers season is on the line right there, to say the very least. That's going to be a game. That's a big time game. Like, I hate to put this on him because I feel like he's been great throughout his career, but like, this is a big time game for Justin Herbert in order to step up in and to try to get this win, overcoming the odds of what has been a interesting Dolphins defense, to say the very least, this season. If there's one aspect of them that has regressed from last season, it's definitely the defense, to say the least. So, Rick, there's we already know what game this has to be, but you just officially announce it to the people.
That would be Tampa Bay versus San Francisco, which would be Tom Brady going against one of the teams that didn't pick him in the NFL draft. And fun trivia question, who did the 49ers take instead of Tom Brady?
It has to be a
pride
quarterback.
Of Hofstra University, Giovanni Carmazzi.
Nice.
That's a good pick.
It was a great pick. Tom Brady avenges and wins. Tampa Bay pulls the upset because Brock Purdy, I don't believe in you yet. Tom Brady wins. As we saw last night, there's still magic in that 45-year-old arm. And as Jurg, as you pointed out, he's got a winning record after the divorce. So why not?
We were this close.
Yeah,
Close to him being undefeated after the divorce, but the Browns had to go and ruin it for all of us. The Browns have really just ruined everyone's season, eh?
Yeah.
Anyways, we move on because it's Sandoval's pick to decide now. So, like we said, this the way it works, Sandoval. Normally, we get the leftover game. There is no leftover game because Thursday Night Football does not exist in our universe, in the Sports Agents of Chaos universe. So, therefore, we have to spin. We're going to spin 3 wheels here. So I always love it when the Wheel of Chaos is back, especially 3 spins. Come on now. You guys are getting triple the normal Wheel of Chaos. So spin number 1 decides who is Sandoval going against. Will it be Rick? Will it be Justin, his other mortal enemy? Or will it be me? Sandoval's probably lone true friend on this podcast.
I don't know how you can call yourself a friend with a damn deer head, but, you know. Neither here nor there.
Oh my god.
So this marks the second time we've done this where he's faced me. Now...
Did he win last time?
I think he did. No, he didn't? Really?
No, he didn't.
Oh, man, can you imagine he gets the max point multiplier, and then it gets the Texans game, and then the Texans actually pull one out?
Well, before we see what his multiplier will be, we have to figure out what game is he going to get. So is it going to be the 1-pointer? So real quick recap for the people. Rick has the Buccaneers over the 49ers. He has the Bills over the Jets. He has the Cardinals over the Pats, and he has the Cowboys over the Texans. So whichever point this lands on, Sandoval will just pick the opposite. So he would get the Texans with a 4-point pick. He'd get the Pats with the 3. He'd get the Jets with the 2, and he'd get San Francisco with the 1 point. Now remember, even if he gets the 1, and even if he gets San Francisco, you might think, that's a low point. There's a point multiplier wheel after this, guys. So let's spin. And what game is Sandoval going to get? Justin, I think he gets a 3. What do you think?
I'm hoping for the 4.
No, for the 4.
4 with a max multiplier.
Huh? Oh, so just barely. It's the 2.
All right.
So the Deer gets the 2-point game to go up against Rick. So that means he gets the Jets over the Bills. Rick, how confident are you in that game now that you know that Sandoval's getting it?
You know, I think that it would just be delicious to have Rick lose to not only Sandoval, but also the Jets, who he has just spurned and given up his entirety of his fandom to pick the Bills. And then also, again, max multiplier. I don't usually root for Rick's demise in such a way. I love the guy, but this is, I don't know. There's just something about this that has me Team Deer all of a sudden.
Wow.
I think I'm just mad that both you guys took my upset picks.
That's fair. That's very fair. Speaking of which, so Rick is out for the moment, so he's probably going to miss this. So this is it. So Justin mentioned the multiplier. So when it comes to like his 1 point, 2 point, etc., there's a cap in terms of what Sandoval gets here. So the max multiplier he could get, as you can see, is the 5x plus 1, which is
otherwise known as 6.
No, because 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. If it was a 6 multiplier, it'd be 6 times 2 is 12. So you're wrong.
Whatever.
So take that. Look at that. Rick, you missed it. Justin
your order of operations.
Justin got proved wrong.
Hey, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. PEMDAS, get it right.
Yeah, suck it.
Screw your order of operations.
Wait, so now I'm torn, though, because this means that Sandoval picked the Jets.
Yes.
Yes, we were talking about that.
I'm really torn right now about this. I really am.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Well,
it turns out it's so much better than them having Sandoval having picked the Texans. Although if the Texans did win,
that'd be hilarious.
That'd be entertaining as all hell.
Speaking of hell, will Rick be in hell? What is Sandoval's multiplier going to be? I'll say he gets like the 4 times multiplier.
I mean, I've already got 4 points on the board, so he's down by 9. So, because let's be real here, Dallas is beating Houston. We know this for a fact. We can already call that game. It's over. The wheel's my friend today.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens, he can't surpass me. Because I will. If I have a week without a win, I'm still at 53. and the deer will only get to 52. So,
Yep.
there we go.
So the wheel is Rick's friend. Speaking of our picks, let's recap, ladies and gentlemen. For myself, my 4-point pick, the Minnesota Vikings over the Detroit Lions, an upset. My 3-point pick, the Cincinnati Bengals over the Cleveland Browns. My 2-point pick, the Seattle Seahawks over the Carolina Panthers. And my 1-point pick, the Tennessee Titans over the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm sorry, it hurts to say every time. I want to upchuck whenever I have to say Tennessee Titans. Next up, Justin, his 4-point pick, the Kansas City Chiefs over Denver Broncos. Good job there. Number 3, Philadelphia Eagles over New York Giants. His upset pick. And number 2, the Baltimore Ravens with Tyler Huntley over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And his 1-point pick, the Miami Dolphins over the Los Angeles Chargers. And Rick, his 4-point pick, the Dallas Cowboys over the Houston Texans. He didn't Galaxy brain that one. 3-point pick, which is his upset, Cardinals over the New England Patriots. 2-point pick, Bills over Jets. 1-point pick, Tampa Bay over San Francisco, which I believe is also an upset. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is.
It is. So 2 upsets for Rick on the week. And then Sandoval, his lone pick he gets, he got the 2-point pick for Rick. So he is going against Rick in there. So he has the Jets on a 2-time multiplier. So the max points he can earn this week is only 4 points. So that concludes the Week 14 go around for the Sports Agents of Chaos. And normally, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the show. And for the most part, it is. But we have rants to finish this off. And here's the thing. We don't technically have a podium unless Rick has randomly found like 2 more things to rant about over the last like 50 minutes of showtime, which I'll be thoroughly impressed if you have, by the way, Rick. But give us what you got. Give us your best shot. What do we have to rant about this week?
I'm trying to think if I do have 2 more things I can rant on very quickly, along with my number 1. Yeah, actually I do. Okay. Number 3 on my rants this week. The Saudi Arabian soccer club Al Nassr is offering Cristiano Ronaldo 2 years and 200.5 million euros per year, and also including club ownership. At what point did soccer become like the Scrooge McDuck gold mine that we can all dive into and get all of our money? Like, this makes the transfer window ridiculous. And you know what? If it was Jacob deGrom money, I'd understand it. But Cristiano Ronaldo's what, 37, 38? And he's a whining baby. That's why he didn't start today for Portugal against Switzerland. So now you're on my list, Cristiano. So take that and to the bank with you. Number 2, holiday lights. I understand the white lights. I understand the red and the green. I understand the blue lights. If you support Hanukkah, absolutely have blue lights. But why do you have the multicolored ones that are purple and yellow and green and orange and red and blue? Like, it's a nightmare to look at. And those lights are the ones that kind of have like the big bunches together. So it doesn't look as tasteful in a way as the rest will. If you make me a colorful array of tasteful, colorful lights, I'll buy it. But I'm looking at a tree right now, and it looks like, like the lighting company just threw up all over it, basically. It just looks terrible. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, it's awful. Like stick with the colors that you know. Number 1. This is my main rant of the day.
Did he really get cut off before number 1?
I did. It's true. I did. I had a call from a telemarketer. I had to get rid of it. Okay, I'm back. So I'll go number 1. The college football portal for transfers. There's like 500 students, athletes that are entering the transfer portal, basically. College football and college basketball have turned collegiate athletics into free agency. There's no loyalty to any colleges whatsoever. And you can already tell that these students are barely getting by because C's get degrees. Like, I'll look at it like this. If Barry Sanders, after 1 year of Oklahoma State, decided, I want to go play in Oregon. And then after a second year said, I want to go play in South Carolina. And then said, I want to go play in Pittsburgh. Like, what is that all about? I'm looking at you, Keaton Slovis. I'm looking at you, Phil Jerkovic. I'm looking at you, Spencer Sanders. Like, stay with the school that you're at right now. Get your degree, because I'll tell you something. Not all of you are going to make the NFL or the USFL or even the XFL. Wait until Jeff Bezos starts his own terrible, crappy football league and puts it all on Prime, and then you can go play over there for, like, meager restitution of money. Maybe he'll go play on the moon. Maybe by that point he'll actually get the spacecraft to the moon and die up there. I don't know. It's possible. So, like, bottom line is this. The 3 of us, sorry, Justin, the 3 of us stayed in college in the same school for at least 4 years.
Justin, I know you had 86. I know it hurts you, but regardless, like, stay in the school that you're with. Like, have loyalty to something and get a decent education, because that's going to drive you home in life. That's going to give you the big time job with the big money and the lack of a torn ACL on both quads or, concussions or whatever. Like, it doesn't pay to go to a school for one semester, Kyrie Irving, because clearly you learned nothing, obviously. And so, I don't know. I hate the transfer portal. I hate all of that stuff. I hate Duncan because they suck, and they probably serve French baguettes now after last week. And I hate you, Adam Rank, so fight me. Belgium, you get a pass. France, you get a pass. Hi, Wales.
I've been waiting for him to just rip apart Belgium on the show, and he hasn't done it twice in a row. I'm disappointed.
Do you know that the sequel to Boy Meets World, and I only know this because I looked up plots and whatever and was looking up like stuff for whatever the case is. The big running theme is they never talk about the Belgian Civil War of 1830, whatever it is, until the very last episode, which is when they decide to talk about it because the gang's breaking up and going their separate ways. So the minute I talk about Belgium is the minute that I've got an announcement that I'm breaking my contract and going to some other podcast. So be glad it hasn't happened yet.
As he turns the lights off and as he drops the proverbial mic, that ends another rousing edition of the Sports Age of Chaos podcast. Easily the longest Chaos After Dark episode we've technically had here. I think probably the best one so far. I think this one was highly entertaining. Talk Baker, talk San Francisco 49ers, had a little bit of trivia. Our pick challenge, of course, you guys know. And we had a surprise rant podium. This is, I think, the first time we've ever had any rants on the Chaos After Dark stuff. As his phone falls to the show. Leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. We will see you guys, hopefully, on our normal scheduled time next week.
Damn you, Duncan!
Thank you so much.